What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blacklight Rewind. I'm Johnny Blacklight, and today we're going to be getting into some old school sitcom pilots. Like I said in the previous episode, I'm going to be doing my watch blocks, doing my review blocks, and we're getting into the first one today. Starting things off with one of my favorite animated series of all time, especially the golden era, The Simpsons. Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire from 1989 is the pilot episode. I forget the lore. For some reason, this actually was the Christmas episode and wasn't supposed to be the first released episode, but it was, and I think it works. I have a ton of nostalgia for it. I had the book that went along with it as a kid. It was like a comic book hardback edition Christmas special Simpsons. It was really cool. Remember my mom reading that to me at night. So awesome. The nostalgia is definitely strong with this one. So in this episode, Bart gets a tattoo, which forces Marge to spend all the Christmas savings on the removal for it. Homer doesn't get his Christmas bonus as planned and secretly takes a job as a mall Santa, leading to lots of fun. The family goes to the racetrack with Homer's meager Santa earnings and loses betting on Santa's Little Helper. They adopt Santa's Little Helper, and it gives the family like a heartwarming ending. I guess my opening impressions for this one would be, definitely feels more like a Christmas special than a pilot. Slower pacing. Emotional core is very strong here, but we do get good introductions to our characters and the tropes and stuff like that to expect. I really like that we get a moment with Homer being jealous of Flanders. Perfect. Sets everything up for what we'll get in the future with that. And also Lisa's snarky comment to Patty or Selma, I forget which one, about her putting down her dad, and that's her role model and the way she kind of words everything in a very smart way. And she's like, just go play with your toys. Perfect. Classic stuff. The voices and designs, obviously a little off. They're kind of still finding things. Obviously, the first season of Simpsons looks and feels a little different than the rest. Even the second and third kind of have a little bit of clunkiness there. Homer feels a little less dopey and more irritable. Bart's already a troublemaker. They do a very good job at establishing that, even with dialogue. Lisa's smart, not quite as layered as we get later, but a good introduction. The premise and setup really establishes a good working class family who's constantly struggles, but they stay together at the end. Just that perfect, like, real world family stuff, but in a cartoon. Great for the time. Lightning in a bottle. Kind of feels a little bit more of like a heartfelt vibe than like the zany vibe we get later. Jokes are a little smaller, a little bit more observational, not yet as rapid fire as we get later. They really let things breathe here. Back in the day, pacing was a little slower. Attention spans were different. Like I said before, just a great way to introduce like the messy middle America family in an animated form. Huge departure from like shiny 80s sitcom families. Wonderful stuff. Really set the bar and changed the game. South Park and Beavis and Butthead and stuff like that were, definitely inspired by stuff like The Simpsons. I guess a bit of an uneven tone, not as laugh heavy, more drama than in the later episodes, but we still have the drama sprinkled throughout a lot of later episodes too. But for a pilot, it feels a little different than normal, but I'm cool with it. Yeah, it feels a bit rough, but the DNA of The Simpsons is totally here for sure, already in the first episode. Dysfunctional family, satire, it just works, man. So I'm super excited to dig into Golden Era Simpsons again and get these reviews out. So stay tuned. I'll be reviewing a lot. Next up, we have the King of the Hill pilot from 1997. Oh, man. One of my favorite shows of all time. Grew up on this one for sure as well. Love it. Love the Southern style. Big Mike Judge fan. Big Beavis and Butthead fan. So this one really works for me. In this episode, Hank is accused of child abuse when Bobby gets a black guy playing baseball. Peggy steps up and defends Hank and her family when social services investigate. Does a great job at introducing Arlen, Texas, and just the whole vibe, the atmosphere. The place feels like a character of its own right off the bat, right from the beginning. Sets up a good balance of satire and like earnest family life. You know what I mean? Has that very dry sense of humor, a lot of awkward moments and stuff like that, but it just totally works for the characters and the style and the vibe that they're going for, the realism. Yeah, very subdued, I would say, for a 90s animated pilot. I love that about it, though. It's almost like a slice of life kind of feel. Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job at establishing like Bobby as kind of the weird kid, Hank as like the very uptight, like rednecky guy who's like very set in his ways with his BC headache powder. Oh, it's so good. Classic stuff. Dale feels unhinged already, but not quite all the way there. But good establishment. Yeah, I just love the simplicity of it. Those quiet frustrations of everyday life mostly through Hank, but just wonderful the way it It's the way it works with everybody, the chemistry of the characters and stuff like that. It's so fun. Yeah, very counter programming to what like the Simpsons and stuff like South Park were doing. I feel like it was trying to kind of humanize like a middle class America rather than going into like a complete satire direction with things. Yeah, definitely a strong sense of place for sure, man. A very believable family dynamic. The tone never really changed. This was the blueprint, just refined later. So for a pilot, this like definitely works as like a solid foundation for me for sure. So yeah, definitely stay tuned. We're going to be kicking through the entire original series, King of the Hill, be getting into the new stuff too, so stay tuned. Next one up is Roseanne, Life and Stuff from 1988, the first episode of Roseanne, man. Grew up on this one, dude. This is one of my mom's favorite sitcoms of all time, so this one was on a lot back when I was a kid. I remember a lot of episodes from it. It's a little hazy, it's a little foggy, feels a little fever dreamy, but getting back into it was really fun. In this episode, we don't get a lot of plot stuff, but a little bit. Roseanne's navigating through like her working class chaos with like managing kids and work and her sarcastic husband, played by the epic John Goodman, one of my favorite actors of all time. So yeah, I'm super excited to get into the series, mainly because of him. Again, less plot driven and more about like establishing the family dynamics here. We get some stuff. We get like some work banter from Roseanne. DJ is barking in class, and Roseanne has to go see the teacher about it, which, you know, leads to like some really funny, like this character is not like this character kind of comedy, and totally works. Roseanne's great with that. Yeah, this one just shows Roseanne balancing like acts of work versus home stuff, and her dry humor, just kind of tying everything together. Working great with John Goodman in that too. Yeah, very real life blue collar tone that, again, separated this one as well from the glossy sitcoms. We'll be getting into more glossy sitcoms later in the future, but I wanted to kind of start with the more gritty stuff because that's like kind of more of the stuff I lean into. It's kind of more of my favorite stuff. So I felt like it would just be kind of more fun personally, just kind of start with these shows and kind of add and mix and change things up with the watch blocks and whatnot as we go, because we're going to have multiple watch blocks. So stay tuned for even more old school shows, even some new shows. Anyways, back to Roseanne. I love this set here too, man. Theirs was always one of my favorite sets. It just feels real, feels messy, feels lived in. I love that for a sitcom set. It's more realistic than like super clean, ultra untouched. You know what I mean? Definitely doesn't feel like that. I feel like Roseanne comes out kind of fully formed here. You know, she's got a background in comedy, so I think she was ready. Very sarcastic, very sharp, very dominant character here. Dan has warmth and like the counterbalance there. I like that. Very sarcastic, but also kind of like the big teddy bear. The kid characters are fun, not quite fleshed out quite yet, but we'll get there. Yeah, very blue-collar, paycheck-to-paycheck family life. Sitcom about money struggles, which feels super realistic, and that's just, you know, kind of where we're at now in life with the economy and whatnot. So, yeah, I love the everyday problem, snarky banter vibe of it. Humor rooted in truth, you know what I mean? Not afraid to be a little mean, but always grounded. Not quite Married with Children, which we'll get to. I did that pilot too. But yeah, not quite that hard, not quite that on the nose, I guess you would say. But still a huge contrast to stuff like The Cosby Show and other like perfect family sitcoms of the 80s. Pacing a little slow maybe. Becky and Darlene kind of feel like mostly like background characters right now, but we'll get there. They can only do so much in, 20 minutes. Roseanne's comedic voice dominates here, man. Wonderful stuff. Believable family chemistry, very relatable. I feel like the pilot basically nails their formula. Later seasons are only going to expand on the depth of the kids and the supporting cast, and everything's going to come together. So super excited to get into this series too. Alrighty, man. Next one up is Married with Children, the pilot from 1987. This one wasn't a mainstay in my household back in the day. We would watch it sometimes, but it wasn't an always watch one. I definitely do remember quite a few episodes and moments and stuff like that, popping it on and whatnot, but wasn't one of our favorites around my household when I was a kid, but there's definitely a lot of nostalgia there, and I'm still pretty excited to get into it regardless, because it's going to be pretty wild, I can already tell. So in this one, a little bit of plot stuff, not too much. Al Bundy worked at the shoe store. We get good establishment of that. He feels drained by life. He's just very curmudgeon, very negative. Peggy spends the family's money frivolously and avoids housework, stuff like that. Kelly and Bud's sibling rivalry is already there. Teenage antics are introduced right at the beginning. Peggy doesn't allow Al to go to the Bulls game, but rather have the new neighbors over, which he is less than thrilled about. But it's a really funny dynamic that works there, how he kind of ends up turning those neighbors into like caricatures of themselves. It's pretty funny how they both do that, actually, Peggy and Al. Yeah, opening impression here, on the nose, man. Definitely immediately trashy and proud of it. A complete rejection of like wholesome sitcoms of that time, for sure. They were definitely trying to make a statement with this one. Al Bundy's bitter, beaten down. Peggy's like the lazy schemer. Kelly's ditzy and Bud is like our modern day Dennis the Menace-esque, Bart Simpson-esque character. Instantly clear family dynamic, be it a wild one and a different one. Like I said, similar to what we see in Roseanne, but I feel like this one, it's just like edges it a little bit more with the edginess. I know we get some of that in Roseanne, but this one feels a little bit more. Yeah, definitely the dysfunctional Chicago family, like basically the worst case version of the American dream. Mean, crude, cynical, laughing at the family as much as with them, basically. It's that kind of show. Yeah, again, very similar to Roseanne with like the rebellion against like the Cosby Show era. Yeah, we don't get much Kelly and Bud, so we're going to get more of their personalities developed later in the series as we go on with reviewing. Some of the jokes are a little cheap, a little gross out, but it is what it is, and it's the time. So it's going to be a little edgy, it's going to be a little crazy, but we're going to get through it. Yeah, Al and Peggy's chemistry is hilarious, to be honest with you, regardless of how crazy it gets. Tone of the show, unmistakably bold, super bold. Yeah, this one, I feel like this one definitely set that tone for Fox as like that edgy network, the anti-sitcom, of all anti-sitcoms here. Alrighty, next one up is Martin, Beauty and the Beast from 1992. I loved Martin as a kid, man. This was definitely up there with one of my favorite sitcoms out of all the stuff we used to watch when I was a kid. Just the energy, the vibes, the theme song, man. I'd be dancing to that shit back in the day when I was a kid. It's so fun, dude. Martin, just the energy there is what really has always drawn me to this show. In this episode, Martin mishandles a situation on air during his radio show, leading to Gina and her coworkers hearing him say that he is the dominant one in their relationship, thus embarrassing Gina and starting trouble. Yeah, definitely introduces the dynamic here very well of Martin's very loud, boisterous personality versus Gina's like grounding force in their relationships, because she definitely feels like the one kind of bringing everything together. We also get a good amount of like Martin clowning around with his friends, Tommy and Cole, and dealing with Pam. Tommy dripped out in this episode, dude. Dang, Tommy got the drip. That dude got style. Yeah, plus the other side characters are really fun. The ones that are played by Martin, like his mom and Shanae. I mean, dude, that's wild. So crazy, man, of that time. It's just such a wild thing to see. But yeah, it reminds me of this like old school, like your Saturday Night Live style, your In Living Color style, like skit comedy stuff. Yeah, opening impression for the first episode, it's just fast energy. Martin Lawrence is like the gravitational center of this thing for sure. I love the Martin radio DJ aspect of this show. Very cool aspect, kind of brings it into the real life. I like when they do that in the sitcoms. Very stand-up style riffing in this too. I'm an old school stand-up fan. Old school stand-up is some of my favorite. So this one definitely has that vibe to it. Lots of yelling, lots of physical comedy. So more about Martin's personality than like a story structure here. It's kind of a showcase of like his comedic style in this first episode for sure. It's early. Supporting cast, maybe not completely utilized here just yet. Some of the jokes maybe feel a little like maybe like staged bits kind of dropped into a sitcom, but that's something I kind of like about Martin. Martin does feel like over the top and wild compared to some of the other sitcoms. Just kind of the crazy like little set pieces they would do, stuff like that. But yeah, Martin's charisma really carries this one, man. Chemistry with Gina shows like heart beneath like the wild relationship that they have. Yeah, the DNA of this show is definitely Martin's like comedic styling. The pilot already proves that it works, and it's a great show. So I'm, again, super excited to get in this one too. Alrighty, and the last one up on the list for today's episode is Futurama, Space Pilot 3000 from 1999. So with Futurama, I wasn't like a huge fan of it. I was kind of getting out of like, I guess like sitcom TV around this time. I was getting really into skateboarding, and I was watching a lot of skate videos, and I was playing a lot of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So I think I kind of missed out on a little bit of Futurama. I definitely have seen a lot of episodes, and I do know a lot of jokes, and I do know a lot about specific characters and moments and the memes and stuff, but I've never sat down and watched the whole series. I haven't seen, I would say, the majority of the series. So this one's going to be super interesting to get into and break down the series. Starting right here with this pilot. So what happens in this one, Fry falls into the cryogenic chamber on New Year's Eve, 1999, wakes up in the year 2999. He meets Leela. She's assigned to implant his career chip, and Bender, the crazy robot. The delivery boy aspect, he refuses to accept his assigned career, which is delivery boy again, leading him to forming his chosen family with Leela and Bender, teaming up with Farnsworth with a delivery company. Yeah. Of course. Opening impression here, I would say it's very cleanly structured, balances sci-fi world building with an emotional hook for sure. Fry, Leela, Bender, all distinct from the start. Bender's already stealing scenes in this thing, so you can already tell he's going to be a favorite, and you can see why. He's the anti-hero robot, one of the favorites, so it makes sense. I'm a big fish out of water fan. That's all. I mean, it's a goofy trope, but I always, I like it. It works for me. So we get the whole 1,000 years fish out of water, frozen in the future stuff. So I like it. I like the gags about future tech and like the bureaucracy and alien life mixing with the humans and stuff like that here. It's very satirical. It works for me here in this first one. It hooked me. It makes me want to watch the show more. So it works, especially coming from somebody who wasn't a major fan of it as a kid. So yeah. And like I had mentioned before in the other episode, I'll be starting Star Trek as well. So that'll be fun to actually see some of the same stuff at the same time. Because it's obviously some referential comedy stuff here with these old school space operas and stuff here in Futurama. So maybe I'll actually know more of the jokes now if I actually get into some Star Trek stuff. But yeah, man, overall, really dug this pilot. Really excited to get into this show. Great blueprint. Feels like it's nearly perfect right from the beginning for what we're going to get with the show and the group of space people going and doing their thing. So I'm excited to see the hijinks. But yeah, man, I think that's going to do it for this one, man. I just wanted to jump on, get the first review block going, get some little mini quick reviews out there, these pilots, and we're going to build off of those, man. So I'm going to be revisiting this specific review block again and doing the second episodes of all these shows. Plus, I have other watch blocks set up. So I'll be watching some other shows and reviewing some other shows, full series. So we're going all through a bunch of old school 90s stuff, some new stuff too. So I'm going to be incorporating some newer shows. Check out the previous episode. I talk about a lot of the older shows I'll be talking about. I'm just now incorporating some of the new shows into the watch lists. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, man, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. I'm Johnny Blacklight, and I'll see you next time.